Nancy, thank you so much for taking time out of your travel schedule to chat with me. I know you're about to fly out, but I'm thrilled that you agreed to this virtual sit down and that we'll be recording to share with our local endurance community. To me, you're an extraordinary athlete, mom, wife, grandmother, event producer, and ambassador for the Greater Waco Sports Commission. And some of people do know that you are the race director for fan favorite events like the Beast of the Brattos, the Skittles, Ironman Waco 70.3, and I think
Waco this year. I'm in charge of Waco this year. So
Waco too?
June 29th. I just took that job as race director. So I'm super excited. Yeah.
Look, if you need an assistant, call me.
Okay, you're getting that.
Not only is that race hot, sometimes it could be a hot mess with the heat.
Yeah, we're doing a lot of fun changes on that, but yeah, we're excited. So.
Oh my God! Well, last week you shared with me your grandkids call you Go-Go.
Yes, that's my grandma name.
Yes, you're a true powerhouse. True powerhouse. I think the people should know that your passions for endurance sports is undeniable. You consistently go above and beyond to support women, challenge athletes, people new to the sport, and you have over 195 full marathons. I got that right under your belt?
I do. Yeah.
22 full Ironmans?
23 full irons. Yeah, because the last one, France, about killed me, so I make sure it counts. That was hard.
And I counted about 30 plus Century Rides.
Yeah, I guess I don't even know. I have no idea.
All right. And then I thought you would be the right person to talk to about cycling fueling. And now, when it comes to hydration and nutrition, you've likely probably seen it all, tried it all. And as an event producer, you're making some of the on-course choices for athletes. So that's a lot for me. This is not about me. It's about you today. So I'll pause and I'm going to kick off with the first question. Are you still actively racing and doing your own thing? And could you share your personal approach to fueling and hydration when you're doing your long bike rides?
Yes, I am still actively racing. I'm training for Ironman Texas right now. It'll be my 13th time to do that one. I'm the only woman who's done them all, so I've got to keep going. I'm a streaker, It's like a bad game of Survivor, but you don't win $10,000, you spend it. But anyway, so yeah, I'm currently training for that. I'll have, several Century rides coming up, things like that. You can tell I just got out of the pool. I don't love to swim, but it's the only way they let you in on the bike. So my own personal, I'm a certified coach, but probably a lot of the things that I do, most coaches will say, what? I tell my daughters all the time, I'm your mom, not your role model. And I kind of say that to athletes too. What I mean by that is you just have to do what works for you. And for me, I am not into I've tried the full liquid because I know that's absorbed better. I need something to consume, like almost mentally, I feel better. I feel like I'm putting something in my stomach that I like. So I will actually eat real food, as I go, and I'll hydrate. My biggest problem is getting in enough calories because I tend to not consume enough. So I do try to track, I try to track at least every hour that I am consuming, 200 calories, 250. I don't weigh very much, I'm about 110 pounds, so I don't need as much fuel as somebody who weighs 200 pounds. But I still have to really mentally remind myself to eat even when I don't want to. I'm also more of a savory flavored person. Goos and gels that are, the very sweet, that makes me very sick at my stomach. And so I know the technology and the science is behind that. I know a lot of coaches say you need to do that, if I could give you one piece of advice, it's to do what works for you and not to put yourself in some cookie cutter mold that everyone else is doing. I think you just have to find out what works for you. And for me, a savory is more of something that I would eat, I'll tell you the truth. There's nothing better than a good payday bar. You've got sugar, I'm not kidding. Scott Flathouse took a picture of me once on a course and my mouth, I look like a squirrel. And it's because I had a full payday bar. It's got the sugar, but it's got the salt. And it's something that I like to eat. And that was probably the one best piece of advice I was ever given right before my first Ironman. A very seasoned Ironman told me, she said, whatever you take something you want to eat because you won't want to eat. So that's, I guess, my biggest piece of advice is find what works for you and find something that you actually like like and that appeals to you. Don't feel like you've got to do whatever current trend somebody else is doing.
I think what I heard that I want to make sure that everybody, that you do need to eat something.
Oh yeah.
If you're
Yeah.
if you're riding with purpose for 45 minutes plus, you need to eat something.
You do, and I will also add to that, like especially on a full iron or a century, even, but the biggest thing is to force yourself to eat, which is really hard in the mornings. I don't want to eat. I want a cup of coffee and I want to get out the door. And when I'm doing my shorter runs, that's what I do. But if you're going to do a century ride or you're going to do a half iron or a full iron, you got to get calories in. So what I've learned to do, I take those little, what they give old ladies, and who's calling myself an old lady, but those little boost energy things that they give to the ladies in the nursing homes. They're very small, but they have like 360 calories and they have protein, but they're little and they're liquid. It's something I can get in my system easily that gives me calories, and that's a real go-to. I keep those on hand and I will consume them. They taste good and they're easy on my stomach, so that gets the calories in before, and then something else that's sustainable. If I know I'm going to be out there a super long time, my go-to is steel cut oats. Or some people do the overnight oats because that has more sustainability in it. And swimming and riding first is easier because when you run, you're jostling so much, that's a little trickier. But if I know I'm doing a triathlon or a long bike ride, endurance ride, I can stomach things better than I can if I'm just running. So that does alter what I'm doing.
So we were going to ask you about your go-to fuel options. So you mentioned Boost, steel cut oats. You mentioned Payday. Now you're taking over Waco, and you have probably going to have some first-time sprint triathletes there, right? When they're doing their bike training or when on bike day, those fuel options, would you use those same fuel options in that scenario?
Pretty much do. Yeah, we have a ride like here in Waco that we love, that we go to the city of West. And we will stop, eat a kolache, and come back. Again, is that a conventional thing to eat while you're training? No, but it mentally is kind of a fun thing to do. And because you're cycling, you can digest a little more easily than if you were running. But I think it's become a social, fun thing. And I really think that's really important. People, they forget that you're supposed to like what you eat. You're supposed to want it, right? I mean, people are just all the time like, oh, this is what I have to eat. This is what so-and-so does this, and this is why I should do it, and this pro does it or whatever. If you don't like it, you're not going to want to consume it, and you're not going to, and this is supposed to be fun. We're supposed to be having a good time out here. Maybe I've been doing this too long, but you're supposed to have fun with it. You're supposed to enjoy it. So, and I think the other takeaway from all that is just to be flexible and not be locked into one thing that you have to have, because it may not work out for you on race day like you think it will.
So our next question was common athlete's mistake. You're starting to touch on that as a coach, as an event producer, as someone who lead group rides. Can you share some of the common fueling and hydration mistakes you see athletes make at endurance events or at triathlons?
Yeah, more than anything, I think people overthink it. I really do. You've got to find what works for you. That's the most important thing, instead of trying to fit yourself into a mold. I feel like they read. I have one friend, I love him to death, won't name his name, but he's going to try whatever trend is out there. He's going to do it, and he's going to do them all at once. And so he's overthinking because he's like, well, they say to take this salt tab, and they say to take this beet juice, and they say to take this, protein bar and this, blah, blah, blah. And then he's always sick at his stomach. I mean, consistently, he's like, oh, I got gut problems. You don't have gut problems, you're overthinking it. Just, find what works for you in your own training and stick with it and do it instead of overthinking. And I will say, and I said that a second ago, but with him especially, but with a lot of people, I think the intake of salt, I think salt is super important. Don't get me wrong, it is. If I know I'm going to have a very hot ride or run the next day, I will increase my salt the day before. We used to do
I need you to repeat that one more time slowly for the people in the back.
I think like we would do when I did the 50 states where you do a marathon, in all the states, which is a great way to see the country, and I highly recommend. It was really fun. But if I knew the race was going to be hot, on the plane the day before, we would literally drink Bloody Mary juice. Not necessarily with vodka, sometimes not, but always take the Bloody Mary juice because it has such a high level of sodium. I think people don't think enough about the day before and 2 days before what to consume, and they just think, oh, I got to do it on race day. Well, no, you need to be thinking 2 days prior. And one of the things that you need to do if you're going to have a really hot event is to consume salt. You need to really wake up like the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man on your race day, where you feel a little bloated because you've had some extra salt. But during the race itself, I've seen people take salt tab, and that will rock your gut into a mess if you do too much salt and if you do it too soon during your event. I see that all the time, and people get gut issues. The opposite of that, obviously, is to drink so much fluid and not enough salt. I mean, you got two extremes. And I personally know, like at Ironman Texas, because it gets so hot, and they used to do it in May, which was even worse, you get that copious thirst where you are so thirsty. You have to mentally focus, and I do. When I want so much water and you just want to guzzle that water, you have to make sure you take salt with it. So it's a balance, I guess is what I'm saying. I've seen people oversalt, but with all the tablets that are out there, be careful with that. At the same time, make sure you're always mentally aware that just alternate. Okay, at this station, I'm going to take, water. At this station, I'm going to make sure I take some of the Mortal or whatever is offered on the particular course. That was a shameless sponsorship plug. Thank you, Ironman. But I think to mentally stay aware of that salt, you want to do a lot like prior to the event, but during the event, don't overdo it. I see that all the time. Going back a little bit to the day before and the days before as well, people are always like, oh, the whole concept of the pasta dinner the night, load pasta the night before, too late. I mean, it's not going to get into your system. All it's going to do is make you sick at your stomach. Your most important meal is breakfast the day before and dinner the night before the day before. And people forget that. They don't think about it. You need to be thinking about it 2 days in advance at least. And really the night before should be something lighter, so that you sleep on. I think that's kind of old school, but people still hang on to it sometimes, unfortunately.
It's not old school. When I used to compete, that Thursday lunch, I would go eat pho. I would eat soup.
Yeah.
You have the carbs and the salt from the soup.
Mm-hmm.
Excellent choice. Race. And I would have the fastest race ever. I was never really into carb load because I can't sleep or I feel too heavy. I didn't feel fast. And this one guy would say, you eat too late, you feel like a cow. No dig to the beef team. I'm on the beef team. Yeah. And cows don't move fast. You want to feel like a gazelle.
Yeah.
And so sometimes I put that mental imagery, but that Thursday before a Saturday race or that Friday before a Sunday race, what you eat and consume is really the important things. And so you talked about stations, whether you're doing long distance triathlon or endurance events. As an event director, what steps do you use to ensure that participants have access to proper hydration or hydration choices and nutrition choices on course? Because that's tricky. I did the Pink Strong Ride this past October. I had Noon, I had Goo. Try to figure out some of the best things that most of the people use. Can't please everybody. At the end of the day, sometimes it just seems I could be lazy and just put out Gatorade and potato chips, and sometimes they need more. So how do you go about figuring out what options to offer people who don't have their own nutrition?
Well, the different events have different structure. Well, so I'll kind of approach them separately so that I give you a good answer, because I can't really combine the two. The Ironman event, like Waco 70.3, we have certain guidelines, and I will tell you this: I've been producing events for 25 years in the Central Texas area, but working with Ironman over the past 10 years has taught me so much. It's really a great model, which I've transferred to my other events. But they're locked into their sponsors, Mortal, Martin. They're kind of locked into that. But they do a really good job as the directors. We are told on the run course, every station has to be no more than 1.5 miles, and we're allowed a 0.01 error. So we have to have it. And when we produce, we have to go through a walkthrough with our higher ups, the bosses, and say, here's where my aid stations are, here's the distance. So they're very strict about that. I think that's really important. In my other events, I would try to do at least every mile, especially for a full marathon. And that's on the run. On the bike, we have to do every 15 miles, no more than 15 miles, and we're allowed a margin of error 1 mile either direction. The trickier part as a producer is, where are those stations going to be? Because you have to consider a lot of things. It's not just, 15 miles, there's a station, because that could be on a highway. I have to have safety for my volunteers. I have to have safety for the athletes, especially on the bike. So on the bike, like, we try to plan it where the athletes are naturally slowing down. Is that an uphill? Is that right after a 180 degree turn? Is that, where are they naturally slowing down? You wouldn't want to put a hand up when you're going downhill super fast, about to turn. So there are things you have to consider, and where are the volunteers going to park, and where are we putting the roll-off trash can, and where are we putting the truck? So there's a lot of things that we have to decide, but we do get them within 15 miles on the bike and every 1.5 miles on the run. And we offer the different items in the exact same order at every race. It's consistent. We tell our volunteers, we tape it out for them. This is where the food goes. This is where water goes. This is where the mortal goes. This is where the Martin goes. This is where the soda goes. And it's the same, consistent. And
you have soda on the course?
Oh yeah, I have soda on all my courses. I am all about the Coca-Cola. It's like rocket fuel. But unfortunately, what goes up, what goes down, you crash again. But I love the Coke. But do you
offer Diet Coke for those who are diabetic?
We don't, but I have to tell you, I'm a Diet Coke fan. It's my go-to after the race. I just love it. So I've been on a course where it was Ironman Texas 2 years ago. It was, or last year when it was so windy, and I came to a station and they were doing hand ups, and I stopped because I couldn't do a hand up. The winds were 40-mile-per-hour gusts, and I looked at the volunteer, and he said, "Is there anything else you want?" I said, "You got a Diet Coke?" He's like, "I do," and he goes and he gets one and hands it to me. It was the bomb. But we hand out regular sodas, not diet, because we want you to get the calories, because especially like with the Ironman event. So we've switched to Mortal, which was very big change for us and for everybody else.
Yeah, I heard about the dusting about that. So
it was huge. Some of them just completely lost it, had a meltdown. But it's all about, for one thing, they don't make Gatorade Endurance anymore. They just don't. They quit making it. But this is a corporate, and it's a sponsorship. And so Mortal has very good, electrolytes. I'm very comfortable with that. It doesn't offer the calories. It doesn't give you the carbohydrates. It just doesn't. And so people kind of, again, lost it over that. Well, sorry, just accommodate. Like, I'm racing with you guys too. And so instead of that, I think, okay, well, if I'm not going to get my calories from Gatorade anymore, where am I going to get it? So you just start thinking that through. Do you put more, on your bike that you're going to consume, or do you take more at the stations? You have to adapt. I think adaptability is so important. But I like the Mortal flavor better than Gatorade myself. I like it because it's lighter. Again, it's just like you and I were talking about the goo and the gels. I can't stand that super sweet stuff. I find the Mortal goes down a lot better. I really like it.
Yeah, the consistency also is not as thick. Now, I don't know if you're reading my notes, but the next thing I was talking about, adapting your strategy. So yeah, let me bridge it over, because as an athlete, especially if it's an established event, you could always reach out to, if it's not, there's no athlete guide, you could always reach out to the race director and ask what's on course. So you could adapt your strategy. For example, there's no Diet Coke, right? But someone who's diabetic may feel uncomfortable taking a Coke, so they could adjust.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So, as a coach, how do you how do you personally adjust your fuel and hydration plans based on weather, distance, and intensity of ride? And what do you tell athletes to do for your events, or even as for their own personal thing?
Well, so I think more than anything, and I joke about it all the time, and I have a shirt. I wasn't wearing it today because it's too cold, but read the athlete guide. I think I mean, that's really, and I'll send you a shirt, by the way. You got to send me what size you want in milk, because I have shirts that say that.
Hi, sexy Nancy.
Okay, I got you. Send me the address. But I think to know what's on there, and then again, you adapt. You say, okay, well, this is my personal need. Maybe you are diabetic and you can't do that kind of sugar intake. Well, that's when you have to kind of take things into your own hands. Okay, what can I put on my bike? What can I put in my run belt that I can take that works for me? Now, a reminder, especially in triathlon, you cannot take anything off course. No one can hand you anything that's considered outside assistance. Don't do that. That's room for DQ. So that's just a little note. But I would say you need to read the athlete guide and study the course and know where and what is going to be available. And I know, like, going back to not necessarily triathlon, but for Waco Wild West, the Skittles Ride. I try really hard on that one. I survey afterwards. I ask the athletes, what did you take on the course? Did you how many people like the peanut butter pretzel nuggets? Man, those are the bomb. Everybody loves them.
The bomb.com, and you can get them at the Dollar Tree.
They're so good, and everybody loves them. And then, what about, what did you have too much of? And I look and I see what people wanted, and peanut butter sandwiches are huge. Like, people love that. So then I adapt to the next year. Like, what did people say we have enough of, not enough of? On the century rides and the longer bike rides, I find people want salt mainly. They want saltier foods than not too much sweets. Skittles is our sponsor, so there's a lot of candy out there, but we just kind of keep that for the end. We have some. And I am another thing that I do, kind of backtracking for my own personal, when I do want something sweet, my go-to is a Sour Patch Kid. I stinking love those things. And, you sent me, now they're making them with like as part of hydration, which I was taking them anyway. But I think that kind of, they've got a little bit of salt to them. So that must be the appeal. It's not fancy, but it works. But that would be something. Okay, so if I was looking at a course and I'm reading, and all they seem to offer are goo or cliff shots, which again are super sweet. Well, that would be my personal. I'd be like, okay, then that's not something that appeals to me. So I'm going to have to take a little more responsibility and load myself up with things that I do want, that do appeal to me, the saltier type things. I do actually like Martin gels. Again, I'm not like just giving a sponsorship plug here. I actually really do. They're not as sweet, and the texture is better. Like, I consume those pretty well. So for me, that's what I would pack. And I guess that's what I'd say to any of my athletes is read the guide, find out what's there, and then you need to adjust your personal plan accordingly. But know ahead of time. Don't go in there just assuming or not knowing what's out there. You need to really educate yourself about the course, for sure.
And I think it's very important, and this is more a message for the people who are listening. Training is when you're supposed to mess up things. It's not the time to be posting, you had a perfect this, perfect that. You need to save that for race day. Training is when you're supposed to F things up, have fun with it, try the different things, try the things that they say they have on course if you never tried it before. If you know it's going to be windy, it's going to be hot, you need to consume more or consume less, so you want to push the power. You need to constantly keep trying and modifying. And sometimes it's not about performance, but it really is a matter of life and death. Because sometimes you could bunk and you could just lose everything. You just next time you're getting a ride home. So please do take the time that whenever you're trying something new, or you want to try what they have on course, or you want to be better and try other things, please do try it in training multiple times. So that way you know if it kind of works for you. But there's so many trends in athlete fueling now. I mean, like, from your experience, any noticeable trends or shifts in how athletes are approaching fueling nowadays compared to a few years ago?
Yeah, I mean, especially, again, I've been doing this a long time. We used to really, if you go way back in the day, 10 years ago, the idea was metabolic training, where you weren't supposed to eat anything or drink anything if you were working out less than 2 hours. So that was always the thing, is don't eat, don't drink. Teach your body to go into its own resources, that you train your body. So no food, no drink, unless you are exercising 2 hours or more. I think that's a very old school thought, and I lived by it for a long time. But now I think it's really important to consume something, even if it's just a graham cracker before your 6 mile run in the morning, because a graham cracker is easily digestible, goes in. It's just a few calories. I think that really helps.
Cracker?
Yeah, just a graham cracker. I mean, that's what my training group, I do a Tuesday morning. We do a 6.5 mile, very, very hilly route. We do it every Tuesday, been doing it forever. And that's what we've been doing lately, is we're all like, we've been reading kind of what's going on. And again, I don't get very scientific about this, but I do try to follow what seems to be working. And one of my training partners has a dietitian actually working with her on her running. And she told me I need to consume something. So I've been doing a graham cracker before our morning runs. And we run at 5 and 5:30. So it's, again, hard to eat that early. But a graham cracker is something that you can get down. And so we've all started doing it. I think it's made a big difference. I feel like I do have a little bit more energy, than I did before on tackling those hills. I also have found in my own thing that, even if it's less than a 2-hour run or a bike ride or whatever, I do better if I can, consume something every hour. Whereas, again, the old trend was to not consume anything. I don't think that's very effective training. So I've seen that as a big difference. I've also seen, again, the different hydration products. My one concern that I have, and a lot of, again, this is one of my other people that I train with, she just thinks carbohydrates are the devil. And she won't eat that English muffin, by God, she's not eating it. And her training suffers accordingly. People, our biggest trend in, not in sports nutrition, but kind of in an overall weight loss.
Diet culture.
Diet culture, that's what I'm looking for, is that carbohydrates are the devil. Well, they're not, and they're certainly not if you're trying to do what we do. And I keep telling this girl, I'm like, if she goes, well, I want to do what you do. I said, well, you're gonna have to eat that English muffin, sister. I mean, it's carbohydrates are not only important for energy, right? And because they really are, they're your energy fuel, but they're also important to allow you to hold in water, to store water. And that's why when people get on a low carb diet, first thing they do is they lose water weight, because your cells cannot store water when you don't have carbohydrates. Well, as an athlete, if you're going to be out there for 4 hours, 5 hours, 6 hours, 17 hours, you have to be able to store water, and without carbohydrates, can't do that. So I get very frustrated with people who are on these super, super low carb diets. Does that work for you in your everyday life? And, have you lost weight or whatever? Yeah, that may work for you. But if you want to do long course endurance, you need carbohydrates. And that's a trend, that I would like to see. Carbohydrates are not the devil. So,
Got it. Yeah. So.
I do remember when I first started marathoning and started my 50 States quest, we didn't have goos and gels. Those were for the pros. Like, they were the only ones. So we would carry like Tootsie Rolls, Lifesavers, and a good old fashioned Fig Newton. And you know what? We survived and we did really well. And I ran some of my fastest marathons those days. I mean, so it goes back to, it doesn't have to be fancy. It doesn't have to be expensive.
And Bat City Cycling, 2016, they opened this new road, University. I always work for myself or work from home. It's winter, it's lunchtime, and I keep hitting this plateau every time about 23 miles. I can't, when it comes to 23 miles, I was holding 18 miles per hour and I would just drop. And there's this other guy who does the crit races, Bat City Cycling. We would ride the same road. And one day he saw me and I just had my head down. I just looked like I had no more energy. I was bonking. I don't know what it was, but I know I keep hitting this plateau. I keep going. I just can't keep going at the same pace. And he said, hey, you all right? I was like, yeah, I'm a little disappointed. I thought I was going to be able to hold this 18 miles per hour for 30 miles today. And he said, I'm going to give you something. He reached in his bento box and found a intact, not crumbly, fig Newton. The fig Newton was about the size of 2 stamps, right?
Yeah.
He gave me one. I ate that fig Newton, and about 2 miles, right about at mile 25, I got a revival. And I thought it was just the time or my attitude. I got a boost. So I went from 18 miles an hour down to 16, and then I went back up to 17.8 and held it. But I just felt the power. I have been buying fig Newtons since then. I could get them.
Yeah, they're the best.
7-Eleven.
Yeah.
I could go out of town in Alabama in the sticks and find fig Newtons at the gas station at the Piggly Wiggly, right? And it's that
absorbed.
simple.
Yeah.
You mentioned Payday. You mentioned Boost, which you could get anywhere. You mentioned Sour Patch Kids, graham crackers that you get at HEB, Diet Coke. Keep it simple, keep it accessible. It doesn't be expensive. So what other advice do you have for first timers?
I always say this, if I could put it on an inspirational pillow, I would put, and I could sell it for a fortune. Never try anything new on race day. Guess what? It isn't always going to work out. Be prepared to try something new on race day. I remember my very first Ironman, which was Texas in 2011. That was the first one. And I was riding for the beef team. Okay. And I was on the beef team, and I had my little kit on, right? And I had my food, and I shoved it all in my pockets on my beef kit pocket, which was, the pockets were not great pockets.
Yeah, the little short one to the side.
Little tiny ones. And I rolled out a transition, and it all flew out. And, I won't tell you what I said. And I was like, what do I do? And so I just kept riding. And so you know what I did? I stopped at each station and I ate whatever the heck they handed me. And I survived it, and I did really well. But I didn't freak out because I didn't have what I had. Just be adaptable. Be ready to, have a plan. Absolutely. I'm not saying don't have a plan. Have a plan. Hope it works out. But if it doesn't, don't lose your cool. Just stay calm and say, okay, well, that wasn't the plan. But people get all freaked out. And the other thing I'll say, just again, this is more of a triathlon thing, but what I've learned over the years, I used to, like in my bag, my transition bag, my personal needs, whatever, when I would go into the tent, and I would have all these selections, right? Like, oh, do you want the Cliff Bar? Do you want the in-kind bar? Do you want the, breakfast taco? I don't know. I saw a guy eating one once on a bike, which was really funny. I knock yourself out again, do what works for you, but that would land me in the Porto. But I had all this selection, and it was really, it's not even that it takes you more time to say, well, which one do I want? What should I put here? What should I put where? Minimize it. Just, again, everything comes back to keep it simple. And so now I only put exactly what I'm going to need, and I know kind of where I'm going to put it. And that's what I do, instead of having this huge selection and it's mentally draining, and it's a very intense moment. I know it sounds silly. You're like, no, you're just picking out which candy bar you want. Well, you're at a very intense moment. You've just swam 1.2, 2.4 miles. You're in that tent. You're trying to figure out what goes in which pocket. If the selections are too there, it just kind of drains you. So I would say definitely keep it simple in that. And then again, the whole keep it simple goes back to just consume what you like. Make sure that you really want to take it in. That something that is not just digestible for you, but something that is appealing to you, because especially on a hot day and on the run part, you won't want to eat. And I guess I would say that too. I know we're talking about cycling as well, but when you're in a long course triathlon and you have a run about to come up, I would say definitely make sure you get most of your calories in on that bike, and make sure right before the last 10 miles, you need to really try to get some in, because when you start that run, that's when it becomes harder to eat. So you put some money in the bank, so to speak. Those are just things that I've done over the years that I find really effective.
So Perfect timing. Like we planned this ahead of time, but we didn't. Multi-sport fueling. How do you, what specific tips? You just talked about some of it. How do you balance nutrition and hydration across the swim, bike, and run? We have a lot of duathletes on the team. We have a lot of triathletes on the team. I know one tip I want to share is don't put all your nutrition in your pocket and then go swimming and it's out in the Brazos River.
Right. There's some gator eating it.
just take what you need before the
Right.
swim and then after the bike. So you mentioned a good point. There's calories. Some people's nutrition is eating solids and drinking liquids. Fueling and nutrition and hydration, all those words get jumbled up and it gets confusing sometimes. So let's talk on that a little bit and we could wrap with that. How do you balance? Because you said bank some calories on the bike because it gets harder to eat. So you're talking about solids?
If that's what you like. I like solids. Again, it's what, I try to do. I've only worked with I've only had a couple of coaches to coach me because I'm kind of uncoachable because I'm so all over the place. I don't follow the rules very well. Like if you say to me, hey, Nancy, I want to ride 50 miles today. And I'm like, Camille, that sounds fun. Even though my thing may say rest day, I'm so bad. I'll go ride with you because I want to hang out with you. So I don't usually, but I did have one coach that I did like, and I worked with him, and he had me on only liquids. That didn't work for me personally because, again, I needed something that appealed to me, that I liked, and I needed to feel like I had consumed calories. Even at my smaller size, that was something that was mentally, because I think that anybody who does this knows your biggest enemy and your best support is your mind. And if you are feeling like you're successful, it doesn't really honestly matter so much what your body and legs and what your training is. You need to believe it here. And so for me, it was important to consume real food that I liked because it just made me feel like I was getting those calories in. It was hard for me mentally to wrap myself around there were enough calories in that bottle of liquid. Does that make sense?
It does. So, I think one of the key takeaways you were saying earlier was the timing of a huge amount of calories. Time it right on the bike so that your body could have it for the run.
And you don't want to wait until that last mile or two on the bike. I think at the 100 mile.
Can you say that again for the people in the back?
You don't want to wait till the very end because the run, we all know the run, when you're running, you're jostling so much, you just can't digest like you can on a bike. You just can't. So I try to get my final bike calories in 10 to 12 miles before T2. And then when I get to transition, that's when I will move into, kind of more of a, especially long course, I make a deal with myself. Okay, if you run to that station, you can have some of that Coca-Cola. But I also have to be again, keep your mind with you. I mentioned earlier with the salt, make sure that you don't drink, no matter how thirsty you get, don't drink only water. Don't do that. But also be very, as much as I love the Coke, you got to be careful with it because it will spike your heart and you don't need that. So I would definitely recommend, monitoring that and understanding and not slamming so much of it. But I will say that I know a lot of athletes that really struggle with drinking so much fluid that during the run becomes problematic because it gets that jostling, and I've been there. You get that jostling around. Just go slowly on that. And I think walking through the run stations to be able to let that nutrition, hydration, fluid, whatever, settle in your stomach is a very valuable thing to do. And I've had some competitive days in my life, and I'm telling you, walking through a run station it may help you be even faster because you allow it to settle as opposed to trying to run through and never having that opportunity to consume it properly because you're splashing everywhere, but also to let it settle in your stomach. People think that walking is some sort of shame. It's not at all. It's forward progression, and it might make you run faster because you're allowing yourself to take that break mentally, physically, and nutritionally. So I'm kind of all over the place. That's why they call me squirrel. I answer everything.
You said important things. You said walking.
Those things are important. Yeah, my most successful Ironmans have allowed me to walk through the run stations, and I just make that mental deal with myself. Run to the station, and when you get there, You can have a little Coke, you can have, I struggle to eat, but I try to consume anything with salt in it, potato chips, whatever, small doses of it, not a lot. And then I try to get myself to run to the next station, which I know is going to be less than a mile and a half away. So,
now, I know the Skittles Ride is fun, but how long do you think somebody should be at the, should they be doing a buffet? How long should they be at the aid station?
You mean sorry, I missed the first part of that. Was on the
Waco, the Wild Wild West ride, right?
Yeah.
And you stop at an aid station.
So that one is a buffet, and I'm really proud of it. Like, I offer everything because it's a bike ride and it's a rally ride. It's supposed to be fun. So you have fruit and you have sandwiches and you have cookies and you have candy and you have pretzels and the pretzel nuggets, like I mentioned, and a little bit of everything. This year, especially since we're offering the 100 as part of our 40th anniversary.
What? Stop. Free?
Oh yeah. We brought back the 100-mile. Half my committee wanted to quit, but I wouldn't let them.
Wait a minute. We're going to need a coupon code for that. Can you give us a coupon code
I
for
will.
that?
Actually, I'm going to send it. Yeah, I'm totally going to send you one and you can print it out there. I mean, I could come up with it right now if you want. But yeah, we're offering a century to September 7th. And so I know on that one, like, we've already upped the later stations where they will actually have chairs for people to sit in. It's going to be hot, probably September 7th. I mean, who knows with this weather, but it probably will be warm. So those stations, they can take a lot longer. When I'm riding, try to keep moving. I don't take more than 5 minutes at a station usually, if that. But as it gets longer, you need to do what you need to do. There are cutoff times because we can't stay out there forever. But I think it's okay during those kinds of things to take a little break. I don't have a problem with that. You need 10 or 15 minutes to cool your body down, bring your heart rate down, really digest some food and some nutrition and some liquids. That's absolutely fine. Take your time. So.
I thoroughly enjoyed our conversation. I want to be a woman of my word. I told you a few minutes. We have a few minutes plus one. What would you like to say to them, to parting words, and how do you want them to reach you? Tell us about what's coming up in your own personal life and your own personal events in the Central Texas area.
Well, first of all, I just say thank you for letting me do this. I love interacting with the athletes. Like, I love it because I'm still one, because I'm still competing. It's like one of my most favorite things. It's right up there with pushing the porta potties with the forklifts. That's a blast.
I love it.
But it is so fun. But when they put them in the wrong spot, you're like, I got to move it. Okay, let me get on the forklift. But anyway, no, I have, like I said, I have Ironman Texas coming up. I'm going to be in New Zealand the next month. I've got 2 races there that I'm doing, just running. One trail, a UTMB in Rotorua, and then a half marathon road at Buller Gorge in the South Island. So doing that, which does make it more challenging because Texas is coming up and I will not be able, I'm taking a bike, but I won't be able to get like long rides in. So I'm going to spend a lot of March trying to get my longer rides in. I'll be going to a lot of the rally rides in Texas. I love Wheel Brothers and they always have a really comprehensive list. And then in April, I produce the Easter bike tour down in Kerrville, which is a 3-day bike event, which is, I'll send you a code for that too, to share with everyone, because it's great, especially if you're doing Texas or any of the longer century rides. It's 3 days of riding different courses. And it's real inexpensive and it's super fun. We have a great time in the hill country. But I'll produce that, then I'll do Texas, and then I don't know. I don't know what'll be next. Texas for me is just to finish. This is my first year. I'm racing 59 this year. So next year will be 60. But this year is 59. So I'm kind of at the top of my age group. So I know it would be harder to get a slot. Would I like to get one? Sure. But
and for those who don't know, that's a slot to Kona, right? To the championship.
To World Championship, yeah. And I mean, I've raced 5 World Championships now, so it's not like I feel like I've got to do it, which is kind of fun because it takes the pressure off of it. I raced World Championship France in September, and I had some issues before, some injury stuff and some just life. I'm really enjoying life. Like you said, I'm a grandma now. I love it. And my 4 daughters, they're all over the country, so I go see them. But I was out there in France a really long time, like longer than I've ever been on an Ironman course. But you know what? It was fun. Like I really enjoyed talking to the people and being out there and just being like, well, we're just gonna get this finished today. I don't care what my time is. I'm just gonna finish. It was kind of refreshing almost to not feel like I had to have this performance, like I almost could enjoy it more. And I feel like that's how I'm going to take Texas this year, because I am at the top of my age group, and I really don't, because I am going to have a good time in New Zealand and seeing a grandbaby and stuff. I don't have as much time to train. So it's like, the pressure's kind of off to be on the podium and just to enjoy it and get to know everybody. And I really enjoy, more than anything, I enjoy supporting the other athletes, particularly women. I've got 4 daughters who do triathlon, and I feel really strongly about growing our sport among women. I want to see it grow. So it's just more fun sometimes to do it that way, I guess. I don't know. I mean, like I said,
I'm gonna send you
it'd be nice to get a spot, but what?
I'm gonna send you a shirt. Go, go, goes.
Okay, yeah, go, go, goes. Yeah, that's my grandma name is Go Go, because that's what the girls came up with. They're like, Mom is totally appropriate. It's okay. So yeah, I'm just having a good time. And like I said, I really enjoy being able to do this. And I'm very easy to reach. I'm pretty active on social media. My cell phone, unfortunately, is all over the place. That was one of the first things when I took the Ironman Waco race director, everybody said, you better change your phone number, which I didn't. I try to interact. I try to answer as many questions. I do a lot of videos. I train with my athletes. I live right on my own course, like literally right out this door is the swim, the bike, and the run, like 2 blocks. And so I ride the course constantly, and I encourage everybody to come and ride with me. I put those rides on social media. But if someone wants to ride during the day, like the week, if they just say, hey, I want to come on Wednesday to Waco and ride the course, if I'm around, I would love to ride with people. I really enjoy it. It's good for me. And I like I said, I just love getting to know everybody. So I'm always available. People can just reach out.
Well, safe racing in New Zealand.
Thank you.
Safe travels back. I don't think I'll physically see you, but I want to wish you all the best for Galveston and Ironman Texas.
Thank you.
I might be at the Ironman Texas course. If I'm there, I will look for you. And somehow we always seem to find each other in the oddest places all over. I'll find you, you'll find me. Thank you so much for agreeing to talk to the SBR Fun Club today. And I'll share those codes when we share this recording.
Okay.
Thank you.
Send them by the end of the day. And Camille, you're awesome. I love what you do. So thank you.
The feeling is mutual. Let me hit this.